Well, welcome to Build, everybody. I am your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest, you love him. He has been in some true classics, from While You Were Sleeping to Independence Day to Spaceballs to Lost Highway. And you can see him in October starring alongside Angelica Houston in the Teresa Rebeck written and directed film Trouble, about a brother and sister fighting over a plot of land. Hilariously fighting over that land, I might add. Let's take a look.
You get off my land now.
Put that thing down before you hurt somebody.
Ow! You shot me. What a baby.
Listen, I shot my brother.
He's a knucklehead with a backhoe. Hey, stop it! He's digging a huge hole in my property.
You don't get out of the way, I'm gonna run you over. I have a historical claim. My father left me half the property, and she stole that land from me.
You sold it.
Yeah, but it wasn't anywhere near enough. That's what they stole it means.
I don't think it means that.
Every year, he's just a bigger idiot.
He just wants to come home.
He wants to steal home.
I wanted to come by, but I didn't want to intrude. I can't get in the middle of something.
You're still pining for her. I love you, Maggie. It took a lot of years of planning and execution.
The state's gonna auction that property off. Whoever holds the logging rights gets to buy it.
That was stupid.
You don't happen to know if Ben had a will, do you?
What do you think you're doing?
I'm gonna make it more comfortable with this pillow.
She's the one who's in trouble. She
Come
can
on
shoot
now,
at me,
Ben.
but I can't shoot at her.
Oh, please.
Whoa.
We need a doctor!
Not again.
Wow.
You think it's ever going to get any better?
She's a piece of work.
What am I supposed to do now?
Bury the hatchet and not in each other's skull.
Everybody, please welcome the great Bill Pullman. Sir, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you sitting here. Thank you for coming.
Good to be here. Build it, Bill.
The trailer was just playing, and I turned to you and I said, it looks like you are having a ball in this movie. Did you feel unleashed as an actor with this part?
Well, you know, I just, there was something about it. It doesn't ever sound good when an actor says, you must have had a lot of fun. Like, well, the audience is supposed to have fun. So I watched it last night. We did a screener of it, and I thought, who the hell am I up there? Biggest, you know, it's very nice to get permission to be kind of a asshole. Or, you know, somebody who's troubled and angry and suppressing it all and wanting to be in charge and, you know, bitter rivalry. But it's actually a story about, you know, these contentions that you think are never going to resolve, you know, two factions that you think kind of like our country right now, you know. And then they just later, you might eat some food and feel a lot better. So
now, it's written and directed by Teresa Rebeck, who is just sort of a celebrated New York City playwright. She's also a showrunner. She's created a few shows. What was it like working with her? How closely do you have to stick to the script when it comes to a playwright?
You know, I don't think she follows the rules about anything, so she doesn't follow the rules about, like, being a fussy writer, you know. She's allowed me great permission to slip, slide, spin, twist, you know. So she's been a long time in the theater, and so she's written over 22 plays, but she's, you know, a fierce person. This was her first time to write and direct, and it was a great privilege. Everybody has a good part in it. There's a lot of good actors in it, a lot from New York, you know. Julia Stiles is in it, and you know, as well as Angelica Houston, but Brian Darcy James, all these people that are really accomplished actors.
That's you know, that's something that you get, I think, when you work with playwrights, is everybody has a good part or has a part to play, because they teach playwrights at a certain point, do not put someone on the stage unless they have something to do, because you want to convince actors to do it.
Yes, yeah, she has to bring back all these people she had in her plays. All of them had done 2 or 3 things with her, so it's like a little repertory company, and she wants them to feel like they are well appreciated.
No, I think your cast often is just a solid man. Solid, sometimes quiet, but like a good guy. What was it like to be asked to play a character like this?
Well, it was, I think for me, I always start with something physical, and I think he's kind of twitchy a little bit. Or so I'm watching now. I'm trying to, what the heck was I doing? But I think there must have been something it's great to not have to just have it all about what you're thinking, which is a big part of film and a very important part of it. And some of my favorite performers are people who think really well on screen, But this is somebody who's kind of hepped up, and it's very great to get
Someone who doesn't think much. If they're thinking, they're externalizing everything that they're thinking right away.
Yes, that's it. It's manifesting not just as a thought process, but it's a jumping around or walking away or thinking 4 thoughts at the same time.
Someone who doesn't take time to speak. They're thinking while speaking. It's all happening at the same time for them.
Yeah.
So when someone like Teresa Rebeck approaches you, obviously she's worked in television, she's worked in theater for an extended period of time, but it's her first time, you said, directing a movie. You've directed a little bit. You've worked with some of the best directors there are to work with. Do you ever have hesitancy working with a first-time director?
That's very astute, Ricky. Yeah, he gets into that dangerous terrain, where you think, what if the camera was, could we just try one where maybe the camera was over, but it's so, I think if you've been in a lot of things, there's certain, I don't even think of it. I just, my body sometimes will just take me somewhere, and I realize it's just because I'm an old donkey and I know where to walk. But it's, she was very open to that, though. I think, plus the DP was a documentary filmmaker, a shooter for docs, and so she was ready for, anything. And, but, I also really appreciate someone like Teresa who could say, she doesn't care about the small stuff. She wants to be able to say one thing clearly and go with that. She doesn't try to overtalk anything, or, she knows, she trusts her performers and everything, but she's, so you listen really closely when they only say one thing.
Are you an overtalker when it comes to your performances? Do you ask lots of questions, or are you a person that likes to get on your feet and do it and then see where you can go from there?
Yeah, I hate to listen to other actors talk about shit. The worst job hazard, It's like, well, my character, what I'm really thinking, and I don't think I'd go there right now. It's like, just go there, figure it out later, But
I've seen that before where someone is like, but why does my character do that? And the other actor will be, because they do. Just do it.
Yeah. And sometimes they get a lot of attention, and you hate that, and then they're really brilliant, and you hate that even more. It's like, they sucked up all the air in the room, and then they stole the scene, and I was just going, come on, and you see me on camera going, come on. They win, but it's terrible. But I think also, there is something about acting that's, for some people, it's about not being in, you're putting yourself in some place that's not your comfort zone, and that's what makes it interesting. And so sometimes there's a great reluctance to be put in an uncomfortable zone, even though it's part of the job, and you got the job because you're supposed to do it, but still you get, up in the morning and you don't want to go there or something. And I'm trickier. I'm like, with my mind, I'll have vacated it, and I won't be honest about it. It's like, was that the best take? Wait a minute, I'm just really not there yet. I'm not. It's too comfortable. It's too facile, and I got to go back and try it again. Yeah.
Well, there's the actors who I think get really self-conscious, right? And the idea, if they don't understand why they're doing something, they can't ever feel like they're good, or they're casual or comfortable in what they're doing, so therefore they're giving a bad performance. And then there's the actors who are kind of like, well, I'm just going to do it, and if it's not what you want me to do, you can adjust and tell me how I can do it better. I'm not going to criticize myself.
Yes. It's a very, but everybody's a little thin-skinned, so, you can still go, I hate that they're telling me this right now, especially if it's something you did in the take and they're going, you know, I just had a thought. What if you do this? And you think, I just did that. And now you're making it your idea. You're telling me. And you have to shut up about that. You don't say, you know, you can't get angry. You have to unplug from this. It's like being in a domestic relationship. You know, certain things get said. Don't take it in. Just be a turtle. Let it slide off. Go, wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Was a good idea you had. Very good. I hadn't thought of that, you know.
Yeah, I'll get that for you, no problem. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's it. But I think it's, you know, there's some directors that are really truth tellers, you know, and they have a great Geiger counter, and they can be really revealing about humanity, you know, with a simple thing. I remember, did you ever hear of this director, Mike Figgis? Yeah, we did Internal Affairs, big movies.
Even Las Vegas, Time Code, yeah.
Yeah, I did a movie with him called Lieberstrom, which was a really small movie, but really interesting. And in it, I come into the kitchen of my house and see my wife with a guy that I had known a long time ago, and suddenly he's talking to her. And I realized maybe these two people shouldn't be together right now. And so Figgis said, you know, this time when you come around, you look and you see your wife talking to Kevin, and I want you to change every molecule in your body. Go. You know, it's like, how do you change every molecule in your body? But I knew what he meant. You know, it's like sometimes when you're in that situation where, and it's not doing it, it's just being aware that every molecule in your body, when you saw this thing happen, everything changed inside you. It just was like, because you knew she could have an affair with him. They're going to have an affair. You know, and this is a very strong guy, not a weak, you know, defensive guy. So
you didn't walk in the room, look at them, and then go, and change every molecule in your body?
Yeah, that's a good thing. When you're, it's poetry. He's speaking poetically. He's giving me a metaphor, you know, not a literal obligation.
Could I just pick up the coffee, maybe, or what's the? So you're in trouble, and it's a completely different kind of character for you. You're doing this really at the same time as you're doing the show Sinner on USA, which is a much more solemn, darker character, really in touch with traumatic energy surrounding trauma. What is it like playing those two characters at the same time?
It's a very astute description of that, Ricky. It's
it's
characters around trauma, I think, is exactly what it is. And it's sometimes I'm from a small town in Western New York, and this is about a detective from a small town in Western New York. So I feel authorized to, you know, offer a few opinions about how but I think sometimes in small communities, especially when tragic things happen, you know, like in the first episode, Jessica Biel's character is on a beach. She's a normal citizen, mother of a 1-year-old child. She suddenly, something triggers her. You don't know what it is. And she becomes something she never was before, like an animal with a knife, and is instantly kills another person. Can't believe she did it, but she admits to having done it and wants to plead guilty and go. And I don't let her. I know there's something more to that and everything. But I think of in small towns, what happens is like it's a collective trauma. Sometimes a bad thing like that happens, and people live in denial. They try to remove it as quickly as possible. Yes, let her plead guilty, get her out of here. Let's pretend it didn't happen. You know, like you would with a trauma. Sometimes, you know, it's not like, hey, he just wounded me, I'm going to scream. You know, there's so many other levels in which trauma can be, you know, happening. And when it happens to like in the first season, it's everybody saying, don't let it go. Let her get out of here. Let's go through it. Let's move.
Solved. Let's move on to the next case.
Yeah. And Ambrose is the one that says, no. We're going to keep our finger in the wound and keep until we find out what's causing it.
You've played a few detectives before, right? This isn't your first.
You know, little things. You know, smaller parts. I don't think I played. Well, I did play kind of an private investigator, PI.
Zero
Effect. He had told me before this that he had seen this movie, which is
great movie.
Not often seen movie, one of my favorites, personal favorites, and so I I think I'm glad we brought
I think
it
it's
up.
another great example of you doing comedy as well with Zero Effect. I think you've done a fair amount of comedy before. Obviously, one of your first roles was a huge comedy movie, but Zero Effect is a very particular way of using your comedic abilities as an actor, which is sort of dark and brooding while at the same time fairly silly.
Yeah, but on amphetamines, always fun. When you're given pharmaceuticals to pretend. But and he also it's like a Sherlock Holmes Watson relationship that I had with Ben Stiller was Watson, kind of in a contemporary setting. A guy who's an agoraphobic, he doesn't want to go out in public, but he can solve anything and figure anything out as a private investigator. And he has a great fear of being in the open. And so he's complicated and on amphetamines.
Now you've done a fair amount of television before, but this is kind of, for lack of a better word, they call it prestige television. You've got a showrunner who's very well known and worked on some really great stuff. It's definitely some great actors involved, including you. But first season you had Jessica Biel. This season you have Carrie Coon. You have Tracy Letts, I think, is in the first few episodes, right?
This girl Hannah Gross,
yeah,
really strong actress.
What was it like when they brought this to you to be the main character? Was there talk right away from the beginning of of moving into a second season, or did everyone think it would be kind of like a one-season thing?
Well, I love this term, fair amount of television. I don't know, an unfair amount of television, but I mean, like punishment or something. But I think I haven't done. I've done mini-series, like episodes and everything, but I never was on a show that goes, okay, this was great, and see you next year, So I didn't know this experience. And because it was based on a book, and Jessica Biel had found with her company and did with USA, and the character that I played was not so much in the book, so I had to develop him, but it was really kind of like, could have been a supporting character. I think they even put me up for supporting character, because I don't think anybody knew what it was. That we were just telling a story. I didn't care. I don't care whether.
And Derek Simons, the show creator, fell in love with you, made you the star of the show, the lead.
Yeah, and then I'm the only person that made it to the next season. We didn't know how I was going to do. I mean, it could have been like American Horror Story. I think is the whole new cast. Everybody different. But I'm the only character that came back really to tell that story, and I think. I was a little surprised at it. We tell many. It's interesting second season because there's a bunch of characters who are complicated, who have secrets that have to be investigated. So it has an energy of like anywhere I turn, there's like this guy, 13-year-old complicated guy who's poisoned his parents, a double homicide. And so what caused that? Why is that? And so it's, I think I'm experiencing it for the first time, and I'm kind of learning, what that feeling is like, And
what it's like to explore a character for this long, I bet.
Yeah. It's always been a fear of mine to do television, so, a fair amount of television. But I don't know, I got asked once by Mariska Hargitay to go on her show, after been playing for 9 years. She said, I've never had a boyfriend. I want you to come on and play one episode, and you're the boyfriend. And I think I only did it because I wanted to ask them, what's it like to do this for 9 years? I couldn't imagine it. It's like I was one and done over and over and over all my life. And they were having so much fun, and she's such a professional. She was
like, this is my beach house. This is my country estate. This is the private school that my child goes.
Yes.
You're like, it's great.
It's great, yeah.
19 years in.
Really, I know. There's all that side of it, which also was really made me afraid, also. But about, is that all there is? Or, it's like shut up money,
No, but you got something. This is much different than, 19 years of a procedural. This is, each season in itself is a kind of procedural where you're taking a long time to develop the story and the characters and really taking your time with it. It's not really like as much as I enjoy Law & Order SVU, it's a formula that they're banging out as quick as possible,
Yeah.
You do a good job.
Yeah, yeah, and there's you can get addicted to that, and this is like got the challenge of like, hey, we're all new people this year. Sometimes people like to just this is where my milk and graham crackers are, and that's the show, and I know those actors, year after year after year, and so it has its challenges, but it feels more like an extended independent movie. It's shot like that. It's shot this Radium Chung amazing DP that does these. A whole different look, for it and everything. So I feel lucky. I was in one series that I thought was going to be like over and over and over, and it was called 1600 Penn with Josh Gad, and it was the President of the United States, which I thought, I did the one version, and now I can do a comedy version of it, like the Seder play or something. And I thought it was fun, and we did 13 episodes, and then they said, man, no more. And everybody, I didn't realize, I was like the one that's going, 13, that's good, let's go. Let's get out of here, And that's not the idea, Bill. It's a failure when you only do 13. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll be quiet about that. I'm still happy to get the hell out of here, but...
You said that you're one and done for a long time, and because of that, you've been in so many movies, a lot of them classics, I think, over the course of your career. Do a quick thing where we play role recollection. I'm going to throw up a movie that you were in. Tell me the first thing that you remember or what you recall from it.
Okay, I say yes.
Okay, great, yeah, okay.
I was already stunned.
I'm like a vampire. You need to say, yes, I need to be invited in to be able to do this.
I looked fearful. I was.
Let's see the first one, Spaceballs. Let's throw up Spaceballs.
Oh, my God, yeah, the Winnebago. And I'm just thinking about one of my favorite things, physical. When you go to college, you take Acting 101, and they say, okay, now you're all in a room, and you're moving around, and it's all quicksand and everything, and you think, why am I doing this? Nobody will do this later. On that movie, they couldn't get the rocking of, the Winnebago. We go inside, we beat up the Spaceballs guy, the troopers, and then we come out in their outfits, and Mel couldn't get that Winnebago to go, like a comic thing. So they had to give it a fast speed rate. They cranked it up the camera, and we had to run in slow motion up to the Winnebago, and then it would really look like we were running, and then it really looked like the thing was shaking, instead of the grips trying to jump up and down on the other wing, and that the camera couldn't see, But I just, for some reason, that kind of thing reminded me of that.
Next one, Newsies.
Newsies, yeah. This was a movie that, I think everybody thought it went away, like, oh, God, it's an embarrassment. Jeffrey Katzenberg put a lot of money. It was just, people ridiculed it. Nobody wants to see movie musicals. Right at the cusp of that, time where, and since then we've learned, with Moulin Rouge after they were very popular. But I was going down a line of people on a Today. It was like outdoors in Florida, and you're saying hello to people on camera, going, "Ha ha, this is me greeting fans and everything." And then all of a sudden, somebody comes forward with their hand, with a glove, with the fingers cut off, and I thought, this is sinister. What is that? Somebody's handing it, and I'm going to be shot now. And they leaned forward and went, Newsies. And that was the first time. It was like VHS would allow a movie to be rediscovered for the first time. I'm revealing how ancient I am that I even use it.
I still have a VHS player.
You did see? You still
have one? Yeah.
Ah, good. Do you save the VHSs?
Yeah.
Oh.
I buy like used VHSs from vintage stores. It's a nerdy thing. Let's move on to the next one before I embarrass myself more. Yeah. Casper.
Casper, yes. I think I have my hardest physical scene in Casper. It's supposed to be a silly movie, but I have to have a sword fight with the ghosts, and I have a toilet plunger, and this was in the day where before everything, and they had, and I had to do it going backwards up a staircase, fighting with 3 people that weren't there. And in those days, it was so expensive to do CGI that Spielberg was there, and he just knew that every mistake would cost him a lot. Like if I put the sword someplace where the ghost was supposed to be, it cost him $100,000 because they had to spend a lot of money to change it. All seems so ancient now because it's no longer the case. But I would do long takes at that, and I thought you watch that, and everybody's laughing in the playback. Look at how crazy he looks. He's fighting something that's not there. And I thought, yeah, I'm so good in this scene. I'm so good. I just really cracking myself up. And then you see the movie, and you realize, oh, the 3 ghosts that are playing it were done by comics. And they could improvise around what I said, and I couldn't react to them. My lines were already recorded and everything, and they just stole it away from me. And they're the funniest things in the movie. I worked so hard, I was so exhausted, and everything, and I thought, I got this one, and they took it from me.
While you were sleeping?
Wow, Sandra Bullock, who was such a... that was a Cinderella story, this was a lower budget, and she hadn't broken out big. She had done the bus movie, but
Speed.
Yeah, not the one where the bus eats the people, but it's the other bus movie. But she, and John Turteltaub, who's a director who's directed a lot since then, but there was something, we felt really like we had fairy dust put on us, and it was such a surprise when.
In the sense that while you were making it felt like things were coming together really well, and there was a good vibe, and.
No, that we're just doing the best we can, and if people see it, maybe they won't. It was, and then to have it be so important to people, and seem like sometimes people use it as a Christmas movie, and they watch it at Christmas time, even though we never thought of it that way. I guess that's.
A couple more. This is, I'm sure you have a memory from this one, Independence Day.
What movie? Yeah, this one is really, that was another one. I remember when we made it, and then in January of the year it came out, they had a list in the trade paper about the 20 most anticipated movies coming up this summer, and we weren't on it. And then suddenly in April, I start to say, hey, we made the list. I think we're up to number 13. And then I'm watching, and they're tracking these things so desperately, and everything. And then they ran that ad, July 2nd, they came. July 3rd, they attacked. July 4th, the day we fought back. White House, and it just suddenly, wow, people want to see this movie. I'd never been part of something that felt like, if there is such a thing as catching a wave, with anticipation, it was like we were on the wave and solid, by the time it came to opening days. When
you give the big speech in the movie, did you have any idea how that would stand the test of time, how that would live on? I mean, every July 4th, and almost sometimes anything that happens politically, people post it for fun. You find it on Twitter or Facebook. People post clips of it or GIFs of it all the time. Yeah. I am always amazed. I was on in a toilet in a forest in Montana, and somebody had carved in there, President Whitmore for president. It's like, I can't go anywhere. It was like, I'm uncomfortable. Somebody watching me? Okay, last one, Lost Highway.
Lost Highway, which is David Lynch's, such a great chance to work with a master in a piece that, no one understood.
I love the movie and I don't understand it.
Yeah. It was great. We made it pretty close to Independence Day, and I was amazed because when we did European press for both those movies, Lost Highway, they all understood it in Europe. Fine, it's great, David Lynch and everything. And in the States, it was like, what was this about? Can you just tell me what it's about? I was like, forget it. Never mind.
You play like an avant-garde jazz musician in it, along the line of like John Zorn. I think John Zorn actually did the music for the movie, maybe?
Badalamenti.
Oh, Badalamenti did the saxophone stuff as well?
Oh, the saxophone was a studio guy, because David said, you have to be a jazz player. I really want you to be real. And I said, oh, God, yeah, well, that'll take some work. And he goes, no, it'd be really easy. We got the guy who recorded it. you know, because David's in the studio with Badalamenti and the studio musician who's a great sax player. And so, okay, I get the guy. You know, this is great about movies. You get to meet the guy that did it, and he'll teach you and everything. And I got him, you know, there, and we went to meet him. And I said, so you're going to teach me how to play that thing that you recorded, which was a really complicated, neurotic thing. He goes, I can't do that. I don't remember what I did because, you know, we just stayed in the studio, and after every take, David Lynch went, crazier, man, crazier, you know. And he just got so crazy, he didn't know what he was doing. And so, what am I supposed to do? You know, he said, you're on your own, the sax player, and he's going back to the next gig. So I had to fake it in some ways. And you never realize, you know, when you do those things, how much you have to prepare, you know. And so then we had long takes of the whole song, and I had to be ready for that, you know. And it cuts down to, like, 20 seconds or something. But
and he also shoots it in such a way where it's so kind of abstract and beautiful. You're sort of allowed to do a fair amount of performance stuff with it. Let's move on to our last one. We're going to go back to Trouble, the movie that you've been talking about. What's something that you recollect from Trouble, from the shoot on that?
I think I had a blanket in there that sometimes if you kind of look at this movie, I come out of my little camper trailer that I've got parked out in the woods, and I have a big bear rug around me. I think, kind of a modern Game of Thrones or something. But I remember when we were just improvising, and, you know, David Morris is in there, and he pulls up this blanket, and he goes, where is it? Is this an animal of some kind or something? And, it's another character that says that to him, and he goes, I think he got it in Walmart. You know, it's like so Walmart. But
I think we have a couple questions from our audience. Who has a question? Right here.
Hello, it's a pleasure to have you here. Question is, if you could pick a person, living or dead, that you would portray on screen, who would it be?
Whoa, you know, I have a little subcategory of doing political characters, you know, which is just a little.
LBJ recently?
I was, you know, Ralph Yarbrough, unforgotten, great American politician. And I'm in this Adam McKay movie about Cheney.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, played Nelson Rockefeller. You know.
Oh, so you play, was Rockefeller Cheney's basically not like his mentor, but his kind of
nemesis.
It was his nemesis.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That makes sense that it would be his nemesis.
Yeah, because
Rockefeller was taking down Nixon, right?
Yes. Well, no, Rockefeller had been. They were called Rockefeller Republicans. You know, They were pro-environment, pro-education. They were comfortable negotiating with labor and everything. And Cheney and Rumsfeld were the chief of staff for Ford, Gerald Ford, and Gerald Ford was, you know, he stepped up after Nixon resigned, and for that first couple of years, and then 1976 they were running again, and he had asked Nelson Rockefeller to be the vice president to help heal the country because he was a different kind of Republican, you know, and Nelson had said okay and expected to be the running mate in 1976, but Rumsfeld and Cheney said, no, he's not conservative enough. So they did a dirty tricks campaign, and
sure they did.
Thing, you know, Bob Dole was the running mate, and they lost, but the party went really hard right and never came back after that, you know.
Yeah, after the Nixon administration, and I guess after Ford's loss,
yeah,
they went pretty hard right.
But Rockefeller is a very interesting guy, you know, and so when not to ignore your question, because I really feel like I get to play interesting characters, and when you ever listen to Robert Kennedy, and I never want to do Robert Kennedy because I can't do a good Boston accent. My wife insists, she's from Boston, and she always says, "No, give up, Bill. It's not going to be one you do." But that speech he gives, you know, he had just been told like 2 minutes before that Martin Luther King was killed, and that improv that he just came up, he went inside himself and came up with these words to try to heal people and try to make them understand and everything. And I looked at that before the speech in Independence Day because, you know, to me it was like, how do you get inside this moment, you know? What do you say? And Kennedy had such a careful thing. He said, you know, I want you to know how shocked you are because you've just lost a brother. I can tell you, I lost a brother recently, and he spoke from that place, and it was unbelievable. So that's a role I'll never play, but kind of like your answer, the question.
Next question.
Hi. You've played a great deal of characters, both according to the perspective of the story, good and bad. So when preparing for a character, how do you account for that, or do you make a difference in preparation?
Good or bad, moral choices. Yes. I think no one really thinks of themselves often as a bad person or something, so you're never really kind of consciously thinking about it. But there's so many degrees of it. I don't really ever, I get told you're a bad person. It's like in a script or something, somebody's talking about you or saying something to your face. They say you're a bad person or you're a good person or something. And, I'm such a junkie for ambiguity that I never can accept it. And I always immediately assume that they're lying or they're fishing for something or they want to embarrass me.
Who's the most evil character that you've played?
I played a pedophile murderer.
That's evil.
That gets up on 2 brackets.
The 2 worst brackets.
The 2 worst brackets. Yeah, it's in this series that Russell T. Davies created called Torchwood, which was a spinoff of Doctor Who. I was so amazed. I think it's a great series, and it didn't really capture people in some way. It was on Stars, and I guess people that weren't subscribing quite. But it was about it. It starts with a guy who's been a pedophile murderer who's going to get a lethal injection, and he gets it, and he's in there, and he didn't die. He is not dying, and they try again, more, nothing, and then they realize he's not dying, and then another person who they expected to be dying in the hospital didn't die. And then they realized, from him on, no one's dying anymore. And it's called Miracle Day. It's a miracle. We get to live. But then the bad news is we don't get better. So everybody who's ill stays ill. And all of a sudden the resources are just all devoted to keeping everybody alive. And then there's less and less resources. And then the country just starts to cannibalize itself, and in that process, I become the one person that everybody said, okay, nobody's dying anymore, you're the one guy we want dead. And he can't kill him, and he goes on a talk show like this, but it's a setup to embarrass him, and so people can really spite him, and he says things that are intriguing, and the next thing you know, he has a following, and then next thing you know, he has 20,000 people that think he's the Messiah. So it was a great character, a great story and everything, but a pedophile murderer. That was your question. 2 brackets.
Last question. What do we got right here?
Hi, Bill. Michael David. It's a pleasure to speak to you. I've been watching your films literally since I was maybe 4 years old. You've been in so many amazing movies. What out of all of the films that you have done could you say possibly stood out the most, or what role have you learned the most as an actor from?
Can I just say how articulate these people are that are asking these questions? Am I set up? Are you trained for this or something? Do you want a talk show? Because we could...
I want my job.
I'll give it my talk show.
I want your job.
Gunning for my job.
Yeah. I'm so impressed. When I was your age, I'd be... really good. No, I think when I heard learn from, and you think about... the chance to play, real people, I think is something, when it's very, easy and facile to despise politicians. Oh, they're all crooked. Oh, they're all, in it for themselves. They're all chauvinists. And I think there's been some amazing people that we've had as statesmen and people that really know how to, and I see them now. I see them struggling in this environment, to keep meaning and truth and all that and everything. And I think when even doing something like Nelson Rockefeller, which was, it's not the hugest part in it. The conservatives got the big roles, as they always do, but they get the good part. But I was able to, get into meeting somebody, and I think I met his son, Mark Rockefeller, and the thing that you realize is that all that money that he had, and he still wanted to give so much to his country. really, so generous and such a philanthropist. They've gave us Yosemite Park. They gave us so many things that aren't identified with their family. They were just so I learned a lot by getting to research him.
Bill, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. Trouble comes into theaters on October 3rd, October 5th, October 5th. Go see it. It's hilarious. Angelica Houston and Bill Pullman are wonderful. And The Sinner is currently airing on USA. People can check it out. And I think the movie that you were just talking about, Backseat, is coming out later this year, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard yet when it's coming out.
I hope so. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's
Bill Pullman, everybody. Let's hear it.
Thank you.